Have you ever wondered how the experiences from your past have influenced your ability to be successful in your business right here in the present moment and to generate more wealth and income? Well, today we're talking all about how trauma and chronic stress and all of that crap that's happened to you in the past may be influencing your ability to be more successful and generate more wealth and more income from an easy, pleasurable, playful place, and how to overcome it. And if you stay till the end, you're going to discover how to break free of trauma, of chronic stress, of all of this stuff that has been keeping you stuck from a perspective of expertise in trauma that makes it feel simple and easy and not like all this heavy lifting. Make sure to stay to the end to discover how. So in my 20 years experience as a psychologist specializing in trauma, I have helped thousands of people like you to rework their relationship with trauma so that they see that it can become a tool for their success rather than a trap keeping them stuck. Now, here's the thing about trauma that most people don't understand. Trauma is not something that has to be big in order to influence us. It does not have to be this giant, my house burned down, or it flew off in a tornado like Dorothy in the Wizard of Oz or something like that. It can be small little micro traumas, like not having the right brands on when you were a kid and getting made fun of in the schoolyard, or training really hard for a school race and losing out to that, popular kid down the road. Or it can be, something major, like going through a big divorce that impact your ability to feel confident in yourself. There's a lot of different levels of trauma. In fact, a lot of people don't even understand that chronic stress can actually turn into trauma. Let me give you an example. Imagine somebody comes up to you and pokes you on the shoulder. Poke you on the shoulder once. You're like, whatever, that's kind of annoying, right? Now imagine that same person comes up to you and keeps poking you on the shoulder. Hey, keeps poking you on the shoulder, right? It starts to become really annoying. It starts to get under your skin. It starts to stress you out, right? First poke on the shoulder is stress. The second poke, or many, many pokes on the shoulder, is chronic stress. Now imagine this person stops poking you on the shoulder and comes back and pokes you on the shoulder in another month or another year. What's going to happen? They poke you on the shoulder and you go, "Wah!" And you have this huge response to this thing that's really not that big of a deal. That's trauma. You see, chronic stress can actually turn into trauma through time. And so this is why I say every single one of us has experienced trauma on some level, because we've all experienced chronic stress, particularly when it comes to our relationship with money and when it comes to our relationship with success. So in order to be able to shift our relationship with these traumas and to see them as a tool, we need to understand them more. So again, like I said, we're explaining we understand what trauma is. There's big T trauma, as in big catastrophes in our life, like a divorce or a bankruptcy or a parent dying of cancer or our house burning down. And there's little T trauma. Little T traumas are these little micro experiences that are maybe stressors or chronic stressors, like, maybe not having quite enough money in the budget to do what you want for a year and you start to feel like money's hard to come by. That can become a trauma. Little things like that, the bully in the schoolyard thing. The other thing to understand about trauma is that trauma actually implants itself on a cellular level, and it does so in an energetic, spiritual way, but it really actually does so in a neurobiological way as well. Trauma actually impacts your telomeres at the end of your DNA strands, and it can actually go back generations. You can actually see, we talk about ancestral trauma in a spiritual way, but ancestral trauma actually exists in a neurobiological way as well, because the traumas that your mother or your mother's mothers or your fathers have experienced actually get inserted into your DNA strands and influence the way your DNA is expressed in the here and now. And so we actually have this trauma, not just from ourselves, but from our ancestors, from their experiences, from the hardships that they've gone through, that are implanted in our DNA. And so understanding that can empower us to do things differently and understand that these things can go 3 generations back. That's like 100 years. And so we're not always influenced by what's going on here and now. We're influenced by things in the past. Now, trauma can stand in the way, or it can be turned into a source of strength. Trauma can be a tool rather than a trap, as I said. Trauma can feel like something that happened to us. It can feel like something that, oh, we're unlucky. Why did this have to happen, etc. The author John Kabat-Zinn, I think he's a psychologist, he talks about the difference between pain and suffering. Pain is when we have something that's happened to us or something that we're experiencing that's painful, and we acknowledge it, right? Like, let's say our knee hurts and we go, gosh, my knee hurts. Oh, that sucks. That's unfortunate. Now, what am I going to have for dinner? Suffering, on the other hand, is something that we actually do to ourselves. Suffering is when we say, oh, my knee hurts. Why does my knee hurt? Why did this have to happen to me? Why am I the unlucky one? Why is all the bad crap always happening to me all the time? And we perpetuate the pain, and we make it worse, and we make it bigger than it has to be. Unfortunately, this is a lot of times what happens with people in their relationship with the traumas and the stories and the stressors from their past, is they perpetuate those things based upon those internal voices, based upon that internal critical voice, that inner asshole that I like to call it, that ends up kicking up these blocks and these limiting beliefs and all these old emotions and all of this stuff that ends up keeping them stuck in that story that causes more suffering. However, just because we've experienced something doesn't mean we have to suffer over it. What we can do is we can acknowledge and feel that it was a painful thing, and then we can utilize it as a tool for personal growth. We can utilize it as sort of like a stepping stone. There's a concept in psychology, and it's eluding me at the moment. And it's basically the idea that we grow through the things that have been challenging to us. Sort of like if you grow a tomato plants grow better if they get whacked around a little bit. And I'm not saying you grow better if you've been whacked around. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I'm saying they grow better when they've had a little bit of hardship, because they have to be resilient and they have to bounce back and they have to become stronger. Another example of this is a chicken breaking free from an egg, breaking free from an egg. If you crack that egg open and let that chicken out, the chicken will never develop the neck muscles it needs in order to hold its head up, and it'll die. It needs to go through the hardship of pecking its way out of the egg in order to develop the strength to survive and hold its head up. Just like all of us, we have these experiences in our life. I'm not one of these people, I believe in the law of attraction and in manifestation, but I'm not one of these people who says every single hardship is because it was for a reason, because sometimes horrible things happen. Let's just be real. But can we have personal growth from these challenges, even if they were things that we didn't call in? Yes, because they build our resilience, because they give us skills, because they tighten our relationships, because they help us become stronger, because they help us learn tools and that we didn't have before. They prepare us for our next level. So for example, if you have an audience of 100 people in your business and you get one social media hater and you deal with that, great, and that's a crappy experience, but you deal with it well, what's going to happen when you have 100,000 followers? You're going to be able to deal with those better because you've trained at the level of having one hater. Now you can handle 100, right? So these experiences can actually help you build confidence, self-trust, self-belief when you approach your next challenge and when you approach trauma in the right way. So why do past traumas end up holding us back to begin with? Past traumas end up holding us back to begin with because we end up holding ourselves back because we believe it's the way to feel safe. We believe it's the way to keep feeling safe. The only way to hold on to safety is by being in this contained little container where I can control everything. I can anticipate everything. There's certainty. There's never any unknowns. Because if you have had experiences in the past which have been stressful, which have been traumatic, a lot of times you seek certainty. You seek the known. You seek the comfort zone because you feel as though if you don't have those things, the shit's going to hit the fan. You know what I mean? This is the subconscious. This is the way the subconscious and your nervous system work, is when these things feel stressful, like getting out of your comfort zone, like taking the risk in your business, like starting your new business, like doing all these things, your body, your nervous system ends up giving your brain, your subconscious brain, the feedback that this thing isn't safe and it's a danger to you. And what happens is your subconscious brain does everything possible to keep you in your comfort zone, to keep you safe. And so until we rewire our relationship with trauma and our relationship with our old traumas and allow ourselves to feel safe, even with the having of them, even with the experiencing of them, and instead of saying I'm unsafe if I even acknowledge them, basically what happens is we will either kick into that fight or flight response if they feel unsafe and claw back into our comfort zone and never grow and never find that we can create more income, more wealth, more success because it always feels so threatening. Or we feel safe exploring them and how they're impacting us and letting go of these old stories, of these old narratives, of these old experiences that have kept us trapped so that we can step into our next level of success, of income, of impact, and all of those things. So the other ways that trauma can hold us back are things like fear of what other people think, our fear of good things leaving us, like if our parents died of cancer or something. This is one of those things that people don't realize, like with money mindset, for example. We talk about this in my program, Empowering Wealth, where the traumas that we have experienced that influence our relationship with money and success are often not actually related to success or money to begin with. They're related to other things. So if we lost a parent to cancer, we may believe that good things always leave us. And so we don't want to invite good things into our life because we'll just get disappointed and it'll leave us too, including success and more money. And so what happens is our subconscious pushes those things away because they feel threatening because they're going to abandon us or they're going to leave us or they won't die, but that's what happened with mom, And so that's how these seemingly unrelated traumas can come up and end up impacting us that way. We fear being bullied or attacked. We fear that we're not allowed to be this fabulous or shine this brightly or have things be this good because we're going to get down or taken down or lose the people we love, or they're going to be jealous or they're going to hate us. It causes us a lack of self-trust, perhaps because of invalidation, because people are telling us that we can't trust ourselves. It can give us a lack of self-belief, perhaps because we were taught that we were unworthy or that we weren't as good as other people or that we always had to compete with our brothers and sisters, or if we didn't bring home straight A's, it just wasn't good enough. And it can create a lack of confidence, feeling as though we have to earn being good enough, feeling as though we have to be someone else in order to be what other people want us to be. All of these things can come from experiences of trauma in our past. Luckily, there are ways to break free. And as a trauma expert, so I used to work at a 50,000 student university and I was the head of trauma at the university. I trained doctoral students on it. I ran student groups. I ran the Sexual Assault Awareness Week for the whole freaking, town. I did all of this deep work with clients and training on trauma. And this expertise that goes back 20 years has shown me that trauma is not something that has to keep us stuck. And it's not something that you have to heal first before you can step into wealth, abundance, success, more of everything you want, happiness, confidence, belief. You don't have to get rid of the traumas or sort through them all or anything first before all of that stuff can come into your life. The truth is, what you need to move through the flow of your experience here in the present moment. For example, entrepreneurship. You experience what it's like to be an entrepreneur. You encounter challenges as an entrepreneur, which trigger past traumas. And in the presence of what you're doing right now, those triggers come up, and those triggers come up to be healed and released and to be dealt with in the moment. The error a lot of people make, and that I see a lot of folks make out here in the personal development world who are trauma informed or, have trauma knowledge or whatever it might be, but they don't have the expertise, is they want to pull out all of these traumas and lay them out on the lawn like a whole bunch of skeletons. And it's just like, let's just look at all of these. That's not functional. That's not good. And that can actually be highly re-traumatizing to people. And I do not suggest it. Your life is a learning and personal development lab meant to offer you opportunities to address triggers and traumas in regard to the present moment and what's going on for you right now. And when you address what's going on for you right now and understand the string, the connection, the thread, the energetic electricity between this present moment and what's happened to you in the past, and you learn to rewire it and let it go, that's when the magic happens. And that's when it's like imagine that you're like one of these runners and you have this parachute on your back, that's slowing you down. And the parachute is connected by 1,000 different strings. As you continue running, you're cutting one string at a time. And that parachute is losing its full of impact on being able to drag you back or slow you down, one strand at a time. But you're not sitting there going, get this thing off my back and it doesn't get off my back, which will cause stress, which will cause a feeling of anxiety, which will cause fear, all of this stuff, which will cause overwhelm. And instead, it's just simple. You just cut one string at a time and it loosens up until you're running 100 miles an hour down the road. So untangling those traumas, cutting those strings, not going back and digging them all up for no damn reason, understanding how they're influencing you in the here and now, seeing them in the present moment, making different decisions, replacing those old coping mechanisms from a dysregulated nervous system, from those subconscious old habits and ways of being with new patterns, new neuroprogramming, new nervous system regulation practices, and holding space for the both and. The both and is I can have experienced trauma and be successful. I can feel grief and I can feel love. I can feel disappointed and I can feel 100% belief in myself. I can be successful and I can have an idea fail. Making space for the both and planting positive seeds in your subconscious for the expectation of and the neuroprogramming of success and of the new patterning and of the new way of being instead of feeling as though you're trapped by this old way of being, and letting go of the need, maybe not need, but maybe old habit of causing yourself suffering instead of just acknowledging the pain and moving through it, and pulling out all of those subconscious roots from those traumas rather than just trying to cut them off at the head, and rewiring them, rewriting those memories, rewriting your relationship with the past so that you are no longer trapped. This is something that I help my clients achieve in all of my programs, whether it's in my money mindset program, Empowering Wealth, or it's in my business mentorship, Amplified. In both of these programs, we understand the role of trauma and chronic stress and the role of regulating your nervous system to make it safe to be your most authentic, amazing self that is at your core absolutely abundant, successful, and so deserving and worthy of everything you've ever desired in your life. And when you can rewire to those things by releasing things like these traumas that we've been talking about today, that's when everything shifts. That's when things become playful, pleasurable, and delightful. And that's when business and making more money no longer feels stressful and instead feels fun.